Hello, Golden Ones. It is I, the Kobold. Today we are going to decide what our first project is going to be. When you start programming, you are often led to creating a Hello World program. These programs really don't do anything consequential, but they do get your feet wet with the very basics of coding. Unfortunately, the easiest to make games are much more complicated than the easiest to program application. A Hello World game is going to do a lot more. To me, the simplest video game is a paddle and ball game. So our Hello World game is going to be a paddle and ball game. Why do I think it's a good start? Let's go over video game history to find out. Video games first started appearing in the 1950s. It is impossible to know what the very first video game was, but the first publicly demonstrated game was a version of Tic-Tac-Toe running on the supercomputer Birdie the Brain. Most of these early games were designed to play board games as a demonstration or research tool. They were instrumental in the development of these supercomputers. The first known game developed for entertainment is known to be Tennis for Two. In 1958, William Higginbotham created it for the public day of the Brookhaven National Laboratory, so that visitors on that day would have something fun to try instead of the static exhibits. It was a game that simulated a game of tennis from the side view. Players could alter the angle of their shots, and physics was simulated. Because its intention was entertainment, you could say that Tennis for Two was the first real video game. In 1961, Space War was created. The game was a two-player game where players piloted spaceships that fought each other. It was built to make use of most of the PDP-1's computer resources, and as a result was used as a quality test for the PDP-1 builds. The PDP-1, the computer it was built on, cost $120,000 back then, roughly $1 million today. With the cost of equipment being so high, commercial games were not viable. As the 1970s came around, computers got much more advanced and affordable. The commercial market started to form. In 1971, Computer Space was released by Syzygy Engineering, a partnership formed by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney. Computer Space is a derivative of Space War that was coin-operated. It became successful, and they turned their partnership into the company Atari. At some point before hiring their first employee, Alan Alcorn, Bushnell had viewed a unit of the upcoming Magnavox Odyssey. The Magnavox Odyssey would become the first home console and would play a number of games involving a ball, some paddles, and a wall. It had its own version of tennis, along with a number of board game style games. The Odyssey couldn't keep score and was very rules light, not really keeping the players in check. Bushnell had reportedly found it interesting. After hiring Alcorn, Bushnell had him work on a project as a test. Bushnell and Dabney had planned their next game to be a driving game, so they wanted to know what Alcorn could do. They had Alcorn design a machine version of the tennis game Bushnell had seen with the Odyssey. So, Alcorn developed Pong. Pong had scoring, sound, a ball that would increase in horizontal velocity every time it was hit, and English based on where the ball was hit. Bushnell saw what it had become and decided it was a really playable game, so he decided to trial it. They built a coin-operated version of it running off a retail television and got a bar owner to place it in his bar. It was an overnight success. The simplicity of the game made it very, very popular. A few months later, the Magnavox Odyssey came out. While it wasn't as easy to play as Atari's version of Pong, it did have a Pong-like game, so it experienced a great success. Pong clones started to enter the market, and we got our first real taste of console gaming. Thankfully, innovation came along and we got newer concepts too. Games such as Breakout and Arkanoid came out with different ways to play a paddle and ball game. Overall, tennis clones have become a cornerstone of what made video games great to begin with. The simplicity of controls, along with the depth of gameplay, really changed how people wanted to play. I'm just pausing the game to thank you for joining me today. This channel is in its infancy, and if you'd like what you've seen so far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post content weekly related to games and game development, and would certainly like you to join me in the future. Alright, let's get back to the video. As a game developer, what can we learn from copying Pong? Pong teaches us about velocity. Objects can't move if they don't have a force applied on them, so we need to learn about speed and how to apply it to move it. We also need to learn about collision detection. Without being able to collide with things, the ball will just fly on forever. Pong teaches us about input. If you can't read and interpret player input, the paddles will never move. It also teaches us about limiting that input. The original Pong had a bug that became a feature that didn't allow for paddles to move to the very top of the screen. This opening made it where games between two very skilled players always had an ending. Pong teaches us about output. Without drawing stuff to the screen or playing sounds at certain points, the player wouldn't get the feedback that made the game great. Pong teaches us about state. Without state, we never know when a game is started, reset, or ended. Game state is very important for all games. State is something older games missed, and it caused players to have to manually reset things in order to play another game, or to even serve a ball. Pong teaches us a lot, but it's really not that complicated of a game. This is why I see it as our hello world. Please join me as we continue this into creating a clone of Pong on our own. In the next few videos, I'll run you through how to make your own version of Pong using Monogame. I hope to see you next time as we talk about the basics of a Monogame project, how to work with the target resolution, and how to draw a tennis court. It will be enlightening. Do you think Pong is a great start to learn about game development? Is there another game that you would like to see broke down and cloned as a tutorial? Tell me down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay gold, code bold, and goodbye from the Kobold.